All right, we're back with another episode of I-64 Sports Podcast. Before we get into our special guest today, I do want to shout out the lovely ladies of St. Mark Deliverance Center. We put together a Hope Week Foundation tournament yesterday. Turned out beautiful. Just give them a great shout out, and I was happy to be a part of that event. Now, let's get on to our special guest of the day. Somebody I've been trying to get on for like 3 years now.
Stop.
City of Portsmouth Commonwealth Attorney, Miss Stephanie Morales.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Anytime.
How you doing today?
Doing good.
You sleep well?
I did.
That's good. That's great. All right. So for those that don't know who you are, just kind of give them a brief rundown of who you are and where you came from.
So I'm the elected Commonwealth Attorney for the City of Portsmouth, Virginia.
All right.
Was elected for the first time in 2015. Got reelected in 2017 to serve as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer and Chief Prosecutor for the City of Portsmouth.
Okay.
And of course, I'm so proud to be serving in the city that I was born and raised in. A native of Truxton.
Okay.
Grew up
Douglas
in Portsmouth. Park? Went to Highland Biltmore.
Okay, I teach at Douglas Park.
Then Brighton Elementary, Hunt Map Middle, and Norcom High School.
Okay.
So love my city.
Unfortunately, you're not from Norfolk,
Stop. Don't do that.
All right, so like you said, born and raised in Portsmouth. How important is it to what you do now to give back to the city that that you were born and raised in?
So that's 100% what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, run for office and they have their own purposes and they can lose sight of what our number one job is, and that's to serve. Mm-hmm. So community service goes hand in hand with what I do. And I think it's important for me to keep sight of that, even though sometimes there's a task at hand that doesn't seem like it lines up with community service. Right. It's my task and goal to get everybody 100% of the time to think of it as public service and community service.
So how do you balance that? Because I know, like we talked about, there's a lot of stories out there, and like you said, some things can pop up. But how do you balance, keeping that something that's essential to you?
It's not easy. It's a daily initiative. I have to work with the attorneys in my office, and not just the attorneys, but our victim witness people and our administrative professionals to keep the values at the forefront of what we do. Mm-hmm. So if we're prosecuting a case where somebody has been murdered, obviously we're going to be seeking incarceration because that person is a risk to the community, and we need to provide justice for our victim and their family. Mm-hmm. But on the other end, we have to remember every single day that everything should not be about locking people up. Mm-hmm. And as we do our work, we need to be thinking about how we can treat people the way we want our family members to be treated, how we can envision our family members and the people who we serve. And when I say people we serve, I mean also people that we're charged with prosecuting. Right. And so it's really, really interesting to kind of see how people can facilitate those values on a daily basis. But for me, I have to stay in my attorney's faces, and I have to constantly remind myself how important it is not to let people just continue to do things the way that we've been doing them and then expect to get a different result.
Definition of insanity, right?
Absolutely.
When did the thought first come to you that, to become a Commonwealth attorney?
So, that was definitely not on my radar. I always wanted to be an attorney. Okay. And you've heard me talking to children, and I tell my story about how I, went to the courtroom and, loved the activity. My mother took me to visit when I was a little girl. Right. So I always knew that I wanted to be an attorney. Never ever thought I would ever want to be an elected Commonwealth attorney. The top dog is fine, but running for office and getting involved with politics, because you can't run for office and serve as a public servant without having to get involved in the political process. Okay. That process was never appealing to me because people could just be ugly. Right. So literally, I was an assistant Commonwealth attorney, and it was a situation where somebody needed to step up to fill a role because my predecessor was becoming a judge at the time. Okay. And I had to think through what I was going to do with myself. Was I going to go back into private practice? Was I going to run for office and step up to fill that need? And I ultimately decided that I had a vision for the community that was very important to me, and I was going to step up and run for office so that I could serve the community. Okay. So it was just something that, I was 30 years old when that process first started. I never envisioned running for office at all, let alone at 30 years old. So it was sporadic. It was in 2014.
Who were some of the people you sought advice from before you made that step?
Well, the number one person who was instrumental in pushing me towards taking that step was my husband.
Okay.
Because he told me you're going to run before I would even think about the idea.
For real?
Uh-huh.
Was it back in college?
No, this was like literally while it was happening.
Okay.
He was, we were talking about it. We were talking with some friends, just throwing names around about who would be good, who would be a good fit. I was asking other people, hey, are you going to run? And, my husband was like, nah, she's going to run. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, there's no way. I'm 30. Right. I'm not doing that. So he was the first person who saw that in me before I saw it in myself. Right. And ultimately, is like my number one partner when it comes to, getting me in that space.
Right. Let's not speed through that. How important is your mate, in your growth?
Yeah, it's, extremely important because that could be the difference between you moving forward or you moving backwards or remaining stagnant. And for us, we constantly try to push each other forward, not just so that we can be complete people, but also because we have 4 little ones watching us.
Right.
And we want them to see, what it means to be a strong person, to try to accomplish your goals, and also, to push the person that you're with to accomplish their goals, and what compromise also looks like. Because we have taken turns, like throughout the course of our lives. Our oldest child is 14 and, we're 35. We had him at 20. So since college, we have been like taking turns pushing each other towards accomplishing goals.
So you were pregnant in college?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I graduated actually in 2004, and then I had my son in 2004. So luckily for me, I had like so many credits coming out of high school that I decided to graduate in 3 years.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't realize that. So we had him, and then we turned around and had my other son who's now 13.
Right.
And my husband was still in undergrad, finishing up his undergrad.
Your husband didn't waste no time, did he?
Well, we're not going to go there, but I mean, it just speaks to like the support that we've had for each other, because I worked while he finished undergrad. Then when he finished, I went to law school. So our sons were like 5 months and 1.5 when I started law school. He worked for me to finish law school, and it's just been, then when I graduated, passed the bar, went into my own practice, became a prosecutor. Then when I got settled, he opened up a 6,000 square foot sports training facility in Portsmouth. And then we had that. And then when I ran for office and won, we closed that. So we literally have just gone back and forth, and being a support system for each other, like pushing each other to accomplish whatever it is that we want to do.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. So how do you balance, Commonwealth Attorney Morales and wife Morales?
You have to compartmentalize. I mean, and I don't have a problem with that. Some people think, there's an issue. We got to try to be 100% at all times with everything. I don't think so. I think we have to focus on whatever we're doing at the time. Right. So I've gotten pretty good at focusing on where I am when I'm there. Now, mom is never going to cut off. So even if I'm at work, I'm going to be wondering, are my kids okay? But and with the type of job that I have, I'm on point 24 hours. So if something happens 3:00 in the morning and I get a call, I'm going to answer it. But for the most part, when I'm at work, if I have stresses at work, I'm going to leave that at work. And when I come home, I'm going to concentrate on my children, everything they have going on, their activities. And, then I also find time for my hobbies. I love to read. I like to, listen to music.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about that now?
It's your show. I'm here for whatever you want to do.
Well, like I said, of course, I know you guys are big, you and your husband big into battle rap.
Yeah.
We talked about the battle rap last night.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite battle rapper?
My favorite battle rapper, hands down, is Goods.
Is Goods?
Yeah. So it was, we had, it was real loud in my house last night. Because, my husband decided he wanted to root for Cassidy. I think he was just doing it to pick with me, or maybe it was because of our age group and, Cassidy coming up when we were younger and all that. Yeah. But yeah, Goods is definitely my favorite battle rapper. So if I didn't have the stuff going on here, I would be in Atlanta right now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How did you get immersed in the battle rap culture?
With my husband. Just, I think one day he was just watching something and, on YouTube a while ago, and I just got lost in it. I could literally sit there and just watch for hours. And since then, it's just been, whenever I get an opportunity to look at them, I do. Yeah. But for Goods and Cassidy to be battling, I was really looking forward to it. I've been watching like a lot of the interviews.
Getting hyped up.
Yeah, but it just speaks to balance. You just have to, we as people get to know yourself and what you enjoy.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I enjoy. And, I don't mind, taking out time here and there for me to kind of enjoy something and stop thinking about all the more serious things that I have to deal with.
I mean, one thing about it, and I've seen you around a lot, and you're definitely a relatable person, and you ain't scared to get down and dirty, and so I love it. I love it, and I think it's good for our younger people to see that politicians, whatever, they're approachable people and they're relatable. They come from the same, like you say, you come from Truxton. I teach at Douglas Park, so speaking to a lot of the same kind of kids from the same environments. How was your childhood?
It was good. I had a great childhood. I had, a loving mom who, really did everything for me. My dad did not live with me. He was out of state. He was in the military, but, we had a good relationship. We talked a lot, and, I had a strong support system from like my maternal grandmother and, even my mother's father. I just had a lot of people around me who loved me. It wasn't, I wasn't, I didn't have everything handed to me or anything like that. I definitely had to work hard and fight for the things that I had. But one thing was for certain, that I grew up, with just surrounded by love, lots of people, aunts, cousins, lots of people who love me. I am an only child.
Okay.
So I think that's probably why I have, 4 children and a dog and a cat and just like noise and action. Right. No, I like people around.
Right.
I really do. I do like to find time for myself sometimes, but for the most part, I like action. I like people.
Right.
And, that probably comes from being an only child, always wanting like my cousins and my friends to be around.
And you're always around kids. Like that's one thing I noticed. Like you come back, speak at the school, and every time I see you, you're around kids doing something positive, and this is great to see. I think it's great to see. Be able to touch. Your government, be able to touch those people, your local government people, and acknowledge you, and just excellent. I know that there's something in the Water Festival, of course, going on this weekend, and you had a chance to kind of partake in one of the panels. Yeah, could you kind of give our listeners,
Yeah, so that was a really awesome experience. There's so many different events going on outside of the music. And the panel that I participated in was called Breaking Into Politics.
Okay.
And what was really interesting and cool about it was that it was held in a suite where it was like a gaming competition that was going to be held next after the panel.
Nice.
And so there were people in the room who had, initially come to see the panel, and then there were gamers in the room.
Okay.
And, rather than sit around, because there were monitors everywhere and chairs, they could have sat at monitors and continued to game. They all came over to become a part of this discussion.
Wow.
And the conversation just shifted. We initially started talking about how you get into politics, what, led some of the elected officials and the appointees on the panel to get into politics, and what advice you would give to, this conversation around like what's important to them, what gaming means to them, what tech may mean for our future, what kind of impact that may have on politics, and just kind of integrating all these different ideas that people don't normally put together, in one time, and just developing relationships. I've already talked to people who are interested in, seeing how they can partner to bring gaming to Portsmouth.
Right.
And I'm talking about video gaming, not gambling.
Nice.
When I say gaming.
No, we're talking about esports.
Yes, esports, exactly. And just how, there's opportunities that come out of it, that our children, our youth could benefit from.
Right.
And just keeping up with the times and having people to think outside the box. So it was just phenomenal. I really enjoy having different experiences and, having people who will engage. These young folks really engaged with us and talked to us, came up afterwards. And, one young man even said, I just love gaming so much that, it made me think about how I feel about battle rap. He said, I could just lose, I could just get lost. I could spend so much time doing it. He said, but then I want to do public service. And he just couldn't see how it fit. And I was like, you need to think about how you can incorporate all of this. Trust me, it can fit, so it was just really, really phenomenal for me to be able to engage with people at that level. And it's at something in the water. Like you wouldn't expect, something like that to be happening. So just to have all the phenomenal musical experiences happening, but then also this other dynamic experience where people are being poured into, on so many different levels was just amazing. And I was, glad to be a part of it.
Are you a gamer?
No, I'm not.
Your son is,
no, I used to be a gamer like back when Mortal Kombat was the game, and I could get you. If you give me noob sidebar, you can't beat me. But that's about it.
So how much did you take from? Because I know like your panel was about getting thrown into politics, but how much did you learn from them?
Everything. I mean, like, every time I engage with young people, I learn a whole lot. I mean, that's one thing that I don't know if, other people who do what I do really understand just how phenomenal it is to engage with young people because, you want them to get things out of it. But what I always walk away with is so much, more special, I think, because I just continue to learn. So from these young people, I just learned that like there's a whole another world out here.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to constantly push ourselves to keep moving with the times and creating opportunities for people who have different interests. And so that was really what that was all about. I mean, the conversation just shifted, naturally because one of the panelists made an example about, how would you like to have this as one of your electives in school? And that just everything just went in a different direction. And everybody, the thing that was so good was like everybody was just so flexible going with the flow and just moving with the conversation. Right. So it just, I also learned like you don't ever guess what somebody may or may not be interested in. Because if you had to guess whether like a room full of gamers would be interested in politics and whether they would voluntarily come over and have a discussion about breaking into politics, would you think that gamers would want to, do
not
that?
Necessarily.
So, it just reminds us to keep an open mind always and don't ever underestimate anybody or, don't doubt that your future leaders, the people who could really make a difference could be anywhere and could have, be interested in anything. Right. And that we need to constantly try to reach people wherever they are, so that we can, so that we can be the best and benefit from it in the end.
Right. Absolutely. So what do you have going on for the younger groups right now?
Well, we always have our Future Leaders Initiative going on in the office. And that's where, we invite young people to the office, from as early as they can pay attention. I've had them as young as like second grade, all the way up through law school or professional school, where they come at whatever level they can handle, whether it's to shadow for a day, whether it's to intern with us for a summer, whether it's to have a more intense fellowship, where we, bring them in and I expose them as much as I can to the criminal justice system, not just prosecution, but really what everybody does within the system. And then, at the end of it, we end up calling them junior Commonwealth attorneys. We have had mock trials. Normally we take them down and they get to interact with at least one of the judges. They get to see what the sheriff's people do and, the clerk's office, the court reporters, and just try to provide as much exposure for young people as possible, but not, also to get them out of the environment that they're accustomed to. While I like to meet young people where they are, and I go into schools, also they need to come and see something different. They need to experience something that they may not have even thought was a possibility because, while I had both my parents were college educated, I had a lot of people around me who were doing well. Nobody was an attorney. So if my mother had not provided me with that exposure to take me to see it in action, I don't know if I would have considered that career path. So, that is always going on. We do that all year round.
Is this something they can sign up for or go to a website or something?
Normally we just give them the email address and we release the dates. We'll pick like 2 sets of dates in the summer that we release. But again, we take them all year round. So people email us and say, I want to come in. I have a teacher work day this day, or, this is my spring break or whatever. We normally will work something in and I'm always there. Like, I don't think there's been like one time where I haven't made time to myself personally interact with these people because I'm now 35 and I'm not going to be doing this forever. I really want to do as much as I can now to try to develop who might 35. Come. I am 35.
I had to think about it. You ain't 35.
Yes, I am.
About 32.
Thank you. But no. I'll take that.
Yeah, but no, it's a great program. I know a few of my students they're interested in it.
And I'm still trying to get that whole class on a field trip.
We'll see.
They'll be good. I got them.
We will see.
I want that class. I love that class.
You love that class?
I do. Yeah, they are a special group.
That was amazing. They really enjoyed it.
They are a special group. They really are. And I don't ever want anybody to tell them different. No. So.
Well, Mr. Hawkins might. Those are my babies. And I know that. You've seen them a few times. So you know that. Is there anything else you guys have going on for the youth?
We have a program where we go into the schools called Social Media by the Statutes. And that's one that we do it kind of, on an as needed basis with the high schools where we go in and we talk to them about, what kind of behaviors translate to legal infractions. And so I don't ever do like scared straight. I'm not doing that because I don't see these children as, troublemakers or anything of that nature. I'm not going there. But at the same time, I want them to understand the ramifications of their conduct. Because when we were coming up, I didn't have, any of these concerns.
It was social media when I was in high school.
You had it in high school?
No, if there was. I might not have made it to where I'm at now.
Well, I mean, Facebook wasn't really prevalent until I was going into law school, and you had to have a college email address to have it. And now they got so much different stuff. I mean, it's unlimited possibilities for getting yourself in trouble.
Man, when my mom got on Facebook, I was like, oh man. But you're right. Just so many ways, like a little tweak can just ruin your
I've seen it happen. I mean, we've seen it happen, and just look at the scandals that have happened with photos, blackface photos, and things like that. But then you think about social media and just how much that has the ability to bring all kinds of stuff back. It doesn't go away. So we really try to make an effort to provide that information to young people so that at least we know we don't want to see you come through the system ever, but at least you'll understand. We have like a whole little skit. It needs to be updated. It used to be like with Young Money, and it had Nicki Minaj in it.
I gotta update
but it was, it was a nice, because it had like a relationship of people and how information can spread and what it can, what it can translate to legally. Like if somebody airdrops a photo that's inappropriate, and then, it gets to one person, they airdrop it to all their friends, and how many counts of whatever this could potentially be if you follow it.
So everybody that got the picture.
Yeah. So let's say this person's a minor, and you airdrop, or you send this picture, this young lady sends a picture to a guy. And she's 14, but they're all in high school together.
Okay.
And then he airdrops it all his friends in the area, and now we have potential child pornography charges. And then how many counts do you have? And so, some of the laws haven't caught up with the fact that, you're trying to punish a child predator, but are we also punishing children for child behavior that they don't know how to deal with the social media that they have yet?
Right.
So, all very, very concerning things. I don't ever want to scare the young people, but we still have to let them know, like, this is what we want your future to be. Don't be engaging in this and potentially mess your future up.
Right. Now, you personally, how do you deal with anytime you see a negative story in the media? How do you deal with that?
I mean, I'm a person, so I'm not going to say that I don't care, but, I keep it moving because, everything I do, it's for a purpose. And so, like my music video, rapping with my family and all that stuff. Yeah. Look, I loved it. Hey, we didn't post it on accident.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, if I did this, I wanted to do it. It's not anything for you to, to think that we would be ashamed of, for you to say whatever you want to say. So sometimes I do get aggravated when the media will pick up on like the most negative, nasty voice, and run with that. But that's what, hey, whatever. If that's what you decide to do, that's what you choose to do. I'm going to still continue to use my efforts however I want.
Right.
So it doesn't.
Right.
It really doesn't amount to anything. Like,
and I will say you have a lot of supporters, because like anytime those articles come out, I'll be right. I know I'll be right there.
Yes.
Like, you can talk about my girl.
Yes.
She do a lot of good stuff. We ain't gonna do it. But you have a lot of people that speak up for you, and I personally think the media, they just stop being robots. Like,
well, I will
like
say
me
this.
In the mainstream.
Yeah, you absolutely need to be in the mainstream media. I mean, and you're talented. And I don't know how many people who are hearing this have read your writing, but you are a phenomenal writer. You're very talented. So I hope to see that happen.
Thank you.
But listen, it's just one of these things where, we have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of energy, and I can't spend my energy on anything negative. Right. But, I can say that I have tried to work on sharing the positive stories with the media. And recently I've seen them pick it up and run with it. Gotcha. And so sometimes we also have to be that voice to say, you know what, I may be accustomed to seeing negative things on the media, but let me provide that opportunity for you to have this positive story. And at least I'll know that, I presented it to you. And I've seen a lot. I mean, there has been a lot of positive coverage. Now, whether people share that at the rate they do negative, I don't know. But from what I can see, the people who communicate with me, I've seen they love positivity, just love positivity. So I do see that. I'm 100% appreciative of everybody who is like so supportive.
Your back. You got a little army out here.
Yeah. Army out here. It means a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. Because I know what you're going through. And it's like a lot of times I want to say stuff, but I know of course I'm not on your level, but I know certain things I can't say.
Yes, you are.
But yeah, certain things we can't say. We just can't go right back, like, whatever. So
yeah,
you have a lot of support out here.
And I appreciate it.
No problem. So what's coming up next as far as Commonwealth Attorney? You have to go back up for re-election.
Yeah, in 2021.
Okay.
It'll be a re-election, and I'll be running for that same position. I'm not running for anything else.
I'll keep my sage.
I'm cool with this.
Right.
Don't ask me no next level questions, because I always get that people, what are you going to do next? Nothing. This.
Got you.
Yeah, so that'll be in 2021. And
okay.
Yeah. I'll be right back for the same.
Right. I think last time was Lieutenant Governor Fairfax came down last time. I met a lot of great people through you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're a great person.
Thank you. You are too.
Oh, seriously, you really are a great person. Like you're a great person.
Well, thank you.
I was throwing something about, politicians, but I think that the thing is, I've been able to get a genuine feel from you. Like since the day I've met you, you've just been a warm person, and when you need to be real, you get real, and that I love that.
Well, you know what? I think that we need to redefine what our politicians are like, and that's a part of the reason. What's happening? It's kind of, mine sounds weird. Okay.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. So I think we need to redefine it, but how we do that is we got to kind of start from the beginning. And so that's a part of the reason why I try to spend as much time with young people as I do, because I want to see them come along and do exactly this. Like if they've been taught, or if they saw examples of somebody who's been elected and that person comes back, and they care about them genuinely, and they don't just, it's not just to take a picture and run.
Right.
Maybe they'll turn around and do the same thing. And then maybe that'll be the norm for what we expect from our so-called politicians or public servants, so. Got you.
Sports. We didn't talk about sports at all. Are you an avid sports fan at all?
Well, I'm not happy with my football team right now on many different levels.
Your football team?
The Giants.
Oh, not terrible.
Absolutely,
I'm a Cowboys fan. I can talk about y'all.
But that's not the reason why. I don't think it's just because of, you being a Cowboys fan. I mean, I don't know if you saw what happened with the draft and what the potential implications or, what that says about that particular team. But I'm just kind of reevaluating where I stand. But, the last time, as far as basketball, I don't really have a team. But the last time I really liked a basketball team was the Blazers in 2001. And they had like Rasheed,
Bonzi,
Stoudemire, Scottie Pippen was up there. Maurice Cheeks was the coach.
Damon Stoudemire, all those guys.
Yeah, and that was like the last time I really.
For real?
I mean, I'm a LeBron James fan. I'm a fan of how he plays, but also the things that he does in the community. Absolutely. But the last time I really was like into a team and was really excited was back then.
I'm a Kobe fan, so I really Kobe fan and Knicks.
Oh, Lord.
I like the Knicks currently, so I haven't really posted about NBA because
so
I'm
one
a
of those
Knicks
people. You like the Lakers and the Cowboys, and what do you like?
No, okay.
You like the Yankees too?
I don't watch baseball. But no, my dad was Cowboys fan, so that's how I became a Cowboy. But I don't really deal with them either.
Okay.
But I'm a Kobe fan. That's when I started watching basketball. I don't like the Lakers. I like Kobe. So I'm not a LeBron fan. I don't like LeBron at all. But like you said, on the basketball court.
The basketball court. Okay, but you can respect what he does.
He's a great person off the court. Starting in school, that's something that I would like to do one day. Starting the academy. So I think it's great. What he does off the court is great. Oops. Yeah, see, people blowing me up. See, I'm like you a little bit. Smaller level.
You're right there, man. Like you working with our young people, and that's like the most important job that anybody can have.
Right.
Seriously.
How much? How important do you think education is? We talk about sports.
I mean, that's like one of the most important things, because for one, I don't see how anybody, like, not just education is always important, but we got to talk about reading too. And reading comprehension,
right?
And really keeping those skills sharp, because your ability to comprehend what's going on any sports team, is going to be paramount to your ability to function and succeed.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
And that's coming from somebody who, I've never played any professional sport.
Okay.
But, I do enjoy professional sports, and sometimes I can see when there's a disconnect between somebody and their level of understanding and comprehension of the plays or whatever they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I really don't think you can go wrong working on that education, working on, your reading comprehension. As you know, I talk to young people about ways to do that and finding something you really enjoy and how that translates over to, the stuff that you don't enjoy so much and your ability to read and comprehend.
Right.
But also that educational piece, everybody talks to, people who want to be professional athletes about having something to fall back on, but I don't think it's something to fall back back on. Something comes after that career. So I'm encouraging the kids that you are going to make it. I'm not going to encourage them, you need to get a fallback if you get injured. I'm not speaking that over these kids. You're not going to get injured. You want to make it. You're going to bust your butt. You're going to make it.
Right.
But then after the fact, you're going to take that career that you had and you're going to build something on that. Right. And that's when that education is going to be key. Mm-hmm. And so really just, trying to reach young people and get them to have a different perspective and stop bringing in these negative perspectives. Like, what if you tear your ACL? Right. No, sir, don't do that. I've torn my ACL. Like, don't put that on these kids.
You have?
I have.
How long did it take to recover from that?
It was horrible. Like it was in 2010 and it took me probably a year and my muscles atrophied so much just because I had a complication with mine where I couldn't walk. Some people tear their ACL and they can walk. Mine was completely gone. I couldn't walk and I had to have a full reconstruction. Okay. So it was like a open surgery.
Yeah, I see why you like Rasheed Wallace. You had the surgery like.
Stop.
You keeping up with presidential election?
Yeah.
2020. You got a favorite?
Right now I really, I'm looking to hear more from Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren.
Got you.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren, is that college? She was talking about the free
She's been talking about a lot.
Who I was talking about college loans? That's
she was. That is Elizabeth Warren.
She got my vote.
She was talking about significant reduction in student loans.
Because I'm about 60,000 in the hole right now. But no, seriously. So yeah, we definitely but it's shaping up to be an important 2020 election. Do you think the Democrats are going about it the right way?
I don't know. I am not. I'll tell you this. I am, a public servant at heart. I'm not a politician at heart.
Gotcha.
So, all these political maneuverings and moves or whatever, I don't know whether anybody's getting it right. I don't know if the party is getting it right. I just hope that these candidates do their best to engage with people and sincerely lay out their plans.
There you go.
The candidates who I do prefer are the ones who have the detailed plans, who are telling us what they want to do. Because some of them have said, I don't think this is the appropriate time to talk about this. I don't want to hear that. Like, we need to know what's going on. Right. But then also, like, I hope to see, everybody be good people about this and not try to tear each other apart, because whoever is the Democratic nominee at the end is going to be the person that hopefully the Democratic Party will come behind and support, and to try to move things in the right direction. But we can't do that, like, if we tear each other all to pieces before we even get to that point.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens. I did think it was a good thing that the She the People Forum was held, that focused and was centered around the needs of Black and minority women. And I haven't had an opportunity to view everything that everybody said. I've kind of read some of the articles, but I have a lot more listening to do. But right now, Kamala and Elizabeth are the ones who.
Elizabeth got my vote. No, take my loan. Take them with you. Elizabeth got my vote. What about locally? Is there anything we could do locally to get people more engaged?
That's an interesting question, because you have a lot of people who are engaged and locked into the political scene, and it's the same people. And then you have people who go and vote, and but they're not super engaged in the political process. Right. And then to take it a step even further, you have people who are registered to vote and then they don't ever show up or want to do jury duty. They want to have an excuse. And so I see all these different layers of citizen participation.
Okay.
And I want to see all of that increase.
Okay.
And I brought up the jury piece because, we're at a time now where people get really concerned about officer-involved shootings and accountability. They're concerned about all kinds of things. And I've seen people, certain cases, like there was a case that happened that was on Facebook Live, and I saw commentary from people about what they thought the outcome should be or whatever the case may be. I of course can't speak to that, but what I can say is everybody talks about what the outcome can be of everything, like they don't play a role in it.
Right.
So you talk about the outcome of court cases, like you can't play a role in it.
Right.
So if they could see like who is showing up and how unbalanced it is in terms of what the community looks like, I guarantee you they would reconsider either showing up or shutting up.
Right.
Because you can't talk about that outcome if you don't care, if you see the unbalance and how this doesn't reflect the makeup of the community.
I absolutely agree.
And it's the same thing with stepping up to run for office. People are complaining, I don't like this, I don't like that. One thing that did seem to be good was, and I didn't see it, but it seemed like parents were, showing up from what I heard to council meetings to talk about, funding for the school board or whatever the case may be. And that level of participation is what we need all the time. time because everything that's done affects, people in our city and their families. Right. So, we need more participation. How to go about doing it is, people have to really recognize how it affects them. Right. That's the bottom line. Like,
stop being Facebook detectives, huh?
Well, not even just being Facebook detectives, but like people think, I've had a conversation with somebody who just straight up said, oh, none of that affects me. Wow. And, they don't think, they think, oh, I would never be in a situation with the police because, I'm respectful when I get pulled over and I'm this and I'm that. And I go, and so there's this level of lack of understanding that, all kinds of different situations can happen to anybody, or I would, oh no, that doesn't affect me. My kids are in private school. Okay, well, your kids are in private school, so you don't care about the public school. Who do you think your children are going to interact with at some point? Bingo. Who do you think is going to live in your community? Right. Don't you want them to have a quality education and keep them, on the right track so that they're not breaking into your house? Right. And what about, if we don't care about the kind of food that our children get in school, if they're hungry, like, do you want them stealing from your business where you own, or do you want, somebody coming in your house? So, those are, extremes, but people don't think about how it hits home because ultimately our children's success and our community's success is all of our success. We live here. Right. Absolutely. So, that's the best way I think to get people involved is to directly connect them with how the political process impacts them and to get them to feel this need to step up. Cause that's exactly where mine came from. Mine was just, at first I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want that. That's not for me. But then I had to think about like, okay, well, what's going to happen if I don't? Who's going to step up if I don't? And ultimately like, you know what? I'm going to have to step up.
Probably not someone that looks and comes from the environment that you do. And I think like what you're doing now is important because you're raising the next generation of you. That's exactly what you're doing.
That's what I'm working on.
Because I know there's one young lady in my class right now. I can see her being you in about 10 years.
Well, we have to make sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I know I promise I'll get you out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. So we're about at that mark. So I definitely thank you for coming through. And
thank you for having me.
Please keep me updated what you got going on, how we can help,
Will do.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And likewise.
Got you.
All righty.